moving on to our next topic, and this one is going to be very charged. I want to first read this article about universities teaching and students' rights and whatnot, and then after I read it, I will share my thoughts and ask for your opinions. So this takes place in Australia, and this is about a student who now might be kicked out of his university. So let's get into this. Student who criticized China faces expulsion from the University of Queensland. For those who don't know, the University of Queensland is in Australia. Okay? So let's get into this article. Student advised who has loudly campaigned against the University of Queensland ties with the Chinese organizations faces expulsion from the university within weeks. Drew Paru, a student elected member of the University UC Senate, has revealed that he faces disciplinary actions by the university. In the post on a social media, he wrote, "Hey everyone, it's with a heavy heart that I inform you that the University of Queensland will be considering my expulsion on April 27th. Before a secret hearing due to my posts criticizing the university's links to the CCP and support of Hong Kong." The UC confirmed on Wednesday that Mr. Pabu faced disciplinary proceduring, but refused to divulge the nature other than to say that they related to ruling covering the student council. Mr. Revolt has been political thorn in the side of UC over the past year, leading to noisy protests about the university's support of a joint research with the Chinese-backed organizations, and alleging he was assaulted by Chinese government supporters at a rally last year in support of Hong Kong protesters. QU spokesperson said it was inappropriate to comment on the specifics of the move against him. However, the university rejects Mr. Pelot's statement that the university process is an attempt to penalize him for airing his political beliefs, the spokesman said. Universities expect that the students comply with the conduct policies and charters that reflect both the organization values and community expectations. The disciplinary process seeks to address alleged contradictions of the university policy. They do not seek to prevent students from expressing their views or to limit their rights to freedom of speech. No, we'll get back to the rights of freedom of speech in a minute. Mr. Plavu, a philosophy student, had also attracted criticism from China government, the government-owned media, over his vocal hardline stances against Beijing. News of the university's move sparked criticism on social media. Mr. Plavu's supporters have begun an online petition against the possible expulsion, and this has attracted more than 4,700 signatures. All right. I actually have a lot to say on this, so bear with me and let's get into the conversation and your comments. Okay. This is probably going to be my most controversial topic of the day. The student who balks at the China faces exposure or expulsion. Okay. Now, there's a show called 60 Minutes in America, but most Americans don't know there's a 60 Minutes Australia. I actually never really cared much for 60 Minutes in America. They were kind of dry and boring. But the 60 Minutes Australia kind of like always gave me information on a foreign land, a foreign place, and I found it pretty relatable. So every now and then I watch it and I gather information. Whether it's always accurate or propaganda, I don't know, but there's always some truth in every story. So let's get on some facts here. Australia is heavily reliant on Chinese international students. This is similar to like America. If you're from California and you go to like say a state school, Cal State Long Beach, they'll make say $2,000 a semester off you. Now, if you're from say New York and you go to that same school, they'll make say 5,000 a semester off you. Now, if you are an international student, they'll make 25,000 a semester off you. That's how a lot of universities rank. Maybe it's not totally correct, but we'll say that's how it is for now. And so this encourages universities to get overseas people and to cater for that cash. But when you do that, sometimes you can go too far and displace your local citizens. So let's keep that in mind. So they desire the money and turn down seats to local students or people of other nations to favor China. In Australia's case, some of the schools are very reliant. There's a lot of reports, the teachers and CNNs, or not CNN, but you know, the 60 Minutes and the university staff, they'll tell you, yes, we bend over backwards to appease our Chinese students because they pay our salaries and they pay for the school. Now, this is kind of a problem with governments. If they're relying on their state schools, but they're relying on foreigners to fund those schools, that's a little problematic in my book. What do you think? Some universities implement special clubs, speech tolerance, and Chinese teachings over international ones. So yes, like there was reports that, for example, Australia was some universities were teaching about the East China Sea, how they had that weird map where China owns Taiwan and everything else. They were teaching that at the university, saying this is the map we want taught, and this is what you can teach to all students, whether they're Chinese, international, or locals. So, or when you're going to address if this textbook has Taiwan in it, you're going to take it out. You're not going to even use it. So there's things like that they say no. We forbid you to put that in your university. It's your nation, your university, but basically you are a territorial property of our government because you're doing our bidding. So, yeah, that causes a little bit of a problem. Moving on from that, some universities implement special clubs. So, let's move on. So, some students who did support the Hong Kong movement last year, when for freedom, they went to Hong Kong, and they actually there's documents of this. They went to Hong Kong, they protested on their holiday or whatever. Then they came back to school, and the universities kicked them out. So doesn't that go against Australia's free speech, particularly when the student pays for something? I thought we're supposed to teach open minds and be part of these experiences and everything, but they literally kicked out some students. China tracked the people through coming through the country. Then they went home. They did that and they kicked them out. Moving on, China was caught taking IP from restricted areas, whether sometimes it was from the researchers from the campuses themselves, other times these students would get work visas through internships or whatever for different companies within Australia, and then they would take that information back to China. So this is all well documented and known, and it's something that needs to be addressed. What do you think? How should we handle the international students? Should they be a place for all to learn, or should we more or less focus on making the citizens and educating them the way we want them, the ones that are going to serve us versus overseas? I personally feel it's okay to have a certain percentage of international students so that the locals get exposure, can make contacts, but I do not think they deserve special privileges because our nation should be first, and therefore the contacts are to bring people together, but not subjugate. Okay, so moving on, there's still a few more things. Now, about the students, how do you feel about having the special privileges given to other people on campus? Now, this is what kind of gets me, all right? Sometimes you would have like this. When I went to university, and JC and university, they had like a women's center and a disabled student center. I actually was part of the disabled student center due to my eyesight. But there was no men's center. And this was even the 90s. And so I felt very angered by that. I did not feel like I was an equal person. I did not feel my money was getting the same value as that woman's. And their justification back in the 90s was, well, we have less women than men, so we need to make a safe place for them. But now, how could they justify that? There's actually more women graduating than men. And even if you toss aside the graduating, there's even higher that are attending college than men. So let's say there's 70% women, 30% men, but maybe there's 55%, well, 65% that graduate and only 25% graduate that are men. So there's more that attend than even graduate. So in that case, should not we have the men's center? Many men will grow up. Why do they need it? One, many men will grow up. They've never had a father. Many men will not know how to fight against like these things like Me Too. Many men will not know how to get into trades. And the men are paying the same amount of money as the women are to attend that university, but they're not getting equal representation. And if I recall right, that's what caused America to go to their war with England. They wanted equal representation in their Britain. So I do think that's something that does need to be addressed. But how about you? Now, there's another thing when we're talking about speeches. Uh, a lot of times you have so some agencies will say, you know what, XYZ has been approved or not approved to give a speech. And if he's not liked by a certain group on campus, then a small group or a different group of students on campus will go protest that person from speech and go try to block it. Now, I thought tolerance, multiculturalism, and what's not was about tolerance. I'm not saying I always will like what these guest speakers say, but am I supposed to respect what they say and maybe like it, maybe hate it, but either way, I respect what they have to say and I can still walk away. But the fact that they're blocking it, again, they're taking my money and they're preventing me from free speech, but at the same token, they are promoting free speech and open ideas. So, and again, this takes effect because of what China is doing to wherever it sends students. So then, when I was in school too, there were some classes that had meet cultural diversity. Like I had this one class, and there was no black person in the class, and so they actually made us like 10 students go around and try to enroll an African so the class could take effect when I was in school. So that was very bogus, in my opinion. But what do you think on that? And that's another thing too. There are some campuses now that will say, yeah, like this is a woman's only, not just center, but this is like a woman's only, not I guess not dorm, but like meeting area, I guess. Yeah, meeting area. So like they're getting access to public land that again, every student is paying for, but you're getting more of it. But then there's no contradiction to that where say the men get their own meeting only area. So what are your thoughts on that? And lastly, I will not talk about the false sex cases, the Me Too, or sports cases in this thing. Those are very, very hot topics on campus, but I do want to wait until an article comes up to present information on those two particular topics. So anyway, please comment, subscribe below, and leave your comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much. Well, that will conclude Loyal World News. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Feel free to like, subscribe, or drop a comment below. If you're on the go, listen to my podcast with the link provided in the description. I will see you tomorrow to share more world news.